What if I told you that the biggest lie you've ever been told isn't about politics, relationships, or even success itself, but about your own capacity to create unlimited wealth? Right now, as you're watching this, millions of people are waking up to the same crushing reality, checking their bank accounts with that familiar knot in their stomach, postponing dreams yet again, and wondering why, no matter how hard they work, financial freedom seems to slip further away. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. Has this ever happened to you? That moment when you realize you're running faster and faster on a treadmill that's going nowhere, trapped in what I call the survival matrix. Here's what most people don't understand. You weren't born to struggle financially. You weren't designed to count every penny, to choose between paying bills and pursuing dreams, or to accept that money doesn't grow on trees as some universal truth. These aren't facts about reality. They're programming, deep, subconscious programming that was installed in your mind before you even had the chance to question it. The shocking truth is that your current financial situation has very little to do with your education, your background, your connections, or even how hard you work. It has everything to do with the invisible operating system running in your subconscious mind, the same system that's been quietly sabotaging your efforts to build wealth, sometimes for decades. Think about it for a moment. Why do some people with minimal education create massive fortunes while others with advanced degrees struggle paycheck to paycheck? Why do lottery winners often end up broke within a few years, while certain individuals seem to attract money effortlessly over and over again? The answer lies in something far more powerful than luck, talent, or timing. It lies in the science of mental transformation. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might surprise you. Your mind isn't just a thinking machine, it's literally a magnet. And right now, whether you realize it or not, it's magnetized for either wealth or poverty, success or struggle, abundance or scarcity. The frequency it's operating on was set years ago by voices that told you what was possible for someone like you. But here's where it gets interesting. Just as your mind was programmed to repel wealth, it can be reprogrammed to attract it. This isn't wishful thinking or motivational fluff. This is based on documented principles that have been used by the wealthiest individuals throughout history. Principles that work regardless of your starting point, your past failures, or your current circumstances. The difference between those who break free from financial limitation and those who remain trapped isn't about working harder. It's about thinking differently. It's about understanding that success isn't measured by the size of your brain, but by the size of your thoughts. And when you begin to grasp this fundamental truth, when you truly understand how your beliefs create your financial reality through an invisible but absolutely reliable law, everything changes. What you're about to learn will challenge everything you thought you knew about money, success, and your own potential. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel because the content I share here isn't available anywhere else. These are the deep transformational principles that actually create lasting wealth, and I want to make sure you don't miss any of the breakthroughs we'll be exploring together. Now, I want to go even deeper into this transformation because there's a hidden truth about human psychology that most people never discover. It's the revelation that your current reality isn't actually showing you what's possible. It's showing you what you've been programmed to accept as possible. Here's what happens in the mind of someone who remains financially stuck. They think small thoughts, make small decisions, and take small actions. Not because they lack intelligence or capability, but because somewhere along the way, they developed what I call small thinking syndrome. Every time they consider a bigger opportunity, a bolder move, or a more ambitious goal, an invisible alarm goes off in their subconscious. That alarm whispers things like, "That's not for people like us," or "better safe than sorry," or "don't get your hopes up." But here's the fascinating part, and this is where the real breakthrough happens. Big thinking doesn't just change your actions, it literally changes your energy. When you allow yourself to think beyond your current circumstances, when you permit your mind to explore possibilities that exist outside your comfort zone, something remarkable occurs at a cellular level. Your posture shifts, your voice changes, your decision-making transforms, and suddenly you start showing up differently in the world. This isn't some mystical concept, it's neuroscience in action. Your brain cannot distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. When you consistently visualize yourself as a person of wealth, confidence, and influence, your neural pathways begin rewiring themselves to support that identity. Your subconscious mind starts looking for evidence to confirm this new self-image, and it begins filtering opportunities and possibilities that align with this elevated version of yourself. The transformation goes even deeper when you understand that acting as if isn't about faking it or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about accessing the version of yourself that already exists, the one that's been waiting for permission to emerge. Every successful person you admire started by making a fundamental shift in their internal identity before their external circumstances changed. Think about how a wealthy person walks into a room, how they speak during negotiations, how they make decisions about their time and energy. They don't operate from scarcity or desperation. They move with certainty. They invest rather than spend. They create value rather than just consume it. These aren't traits they developed after becoming wealthy. These are the very behaviors that magnetized wealth toward them in the first place. Your environment is constantly responding to the energy you project. When you carry yourself with the confidence of someone who knows their worth, when you make decisions from abundance rather than fear, when you speak and act as someone who expects success rather than hopes for it, the world begins treating you differently. Opportunities start appearing, people begin taking you more seriously, and resources flow toward you with less resistance. The journey of mental transformation requires you to make peace with an uncomfortable truth. The only thing standing between you and the wealth you desire is the story you've been telling yourself about what's possible. Behind the scenes of every major breakthrough, there's always a moment when someone decided to think bigger than their circumstances, to act beyond their current reality, and to embody the success they wanted to create. This decision to expand your thinking and upgrade your identity isn't a one-time event. It's a daily practice that gradually builds momentum until it becomes your new normal. Each time you choose the bigger thought over the smaller one, each time you act from confidence rather than insecurity, you're literally reprogramming the magnetic frequency of your mind. Write in the comments, "I choose bigger thoughts," if this resonates with your journey toward transformation. Now, I want to go even deeper into what might be the most critical revelation of this entire journey. The hidden sabotage mechanism that's been quietly undermining your financial progress, often for years without you even realizing it's happening. Behind the scenes of every financial struggle, there's usually an invisible battle taking place between what you consciously want and what you subconsciously believe you deserve. This internal conflict is so subtle that most people never detect it, yet it's powerful enough to derail even the most determined efforts toward prosperity. You might work incredibly hard, make all the right moves, follow proven strategies, but if there's a part of you that doesn't genuinely feel worthy of wealth, that part will find ways to ensure you never quite reach your destination. The impact of this worthiness wound goes far beyond simple self-doubt. It shows up in the decisions you make about opportunities, the way you price your services, how you negotiate, and even the people you allow into your circle. When you don't feel deserving at a core level, you unconsciously choose the smaller option, the safer path, the more modest goal. You might tell yourself you're being realistic or practical, But what's really happening is that your internal thermostat is regulating your success to match what you believe you're worthy of receiving. This pattern often traces back to childhood messages about money, success, and your place in the world. Maybe you heard that wanting wealth was selfish, that rich people were somehow morally compromised, or that your family wasn't the type to have money. These weren't just casual comments. They became the foundation of your financial identity, creating invisible boundaries around what you could achieve or possess. The transformation happens when you understand that worthiness isn't something you earn through suffering, struggle, or proving yourself to others. It's something you claim through recognition of your inherent value as a human being. Every person who has ever lived has the same fundamental right to prosperity, abundance, and financial freedom. The universe doesn't play favorites based on background, education, or past mistakes. But here's where it gets really interesting. Your mind operates exactly like an electromagnet, constantly attracting experiences that match your dominant beliefs and expectations. Whatever you hold with genuine conviction, with emotional intensity, becomes the magnetic force that shapes your reality. This isn't wishful thinking or spiritual bypassing. It's the practical application of how consciousness creates experience. When I talk about faith in this context, I'm not referring to religious belief, though it can certainly include that. I'm talking about an unshakable inner knowing, a certainty so deep that it remains steady even when external circumstances seem to contradict it. This kind of conviction acts as a beacon, sending out a consistent signal that attracts matching opportunities, resources, and synchronicities. The fascinating thing about genuine faith is that it doesn't require proof or evidence to exist. In fact, it often emerges strongest in moments when logic would suggest giving up. People who develop this level of inner certainty seem to navigate challenges differently. They interpret setbacks as temporary redirections rather than permanent defeats. They maintain their vision even when others can't see it, and they continue taking aligned action because they know their destination is inevitable. A quick like on this video tells me you're getting real value from these insights, and honestly, it helps the algorithm understand that this content matters to people who are serious about change. This electromagnetic quality of consciousness explains why some people seem to effortlessly attract wealth, while others struggle despite tremendous effort. It's not about working harder or being smarter. It's about aligning your inner conviction with your outer desires until there's no conflict between what you want and what you believe you can have. The journey toward this alignment requires honest self-examination about the beliefs you've been carrying, many of which operate below the threshold of conscious awareness. Once you begin identifying and transforming these limiting patterns, once you truly claim your worthiness and develop unshakable faith in your vision, your entire relationship with money and success transforms. Write in the comments, "I am worthy of wealth," if you're ready to claim what's rightfully yours. Now, I want to go even deeper into the mechanics of how your mind actually functions as an energy generator, because understanding this process is what separates those who create lasting transformation from those who remain stuck in cycles of temporary motivation, followed by inevitable disappointment. Your consciousness operates like a sophisticated broadcasting system, constantly transmitting frequencies based on your dominant thought patterns. When you habitually connect with thoughts rooted in fear, thoughts like "I can't afford this," "money is tight," or "I'm not good with finances," you're literally tuning your mental radio to a low-frequency station. This frequency doesn't just stay contained within your mind, it radiates outward, influencing the people you attract, the opportunities you notice, and the decisions you make throughout your day. The hidden truth behind this process is that your brain is essentially a pattern-matching machine. It's constantly scanning your environment for evidence that confirms whatever frequency You're broadcasting. If you're operating from scarcity consciousness, your mind will highlight every news story about economic problems, every friend's complaint about money struggles, every reason why your dreams might not be realistic. This isn't because the world is inherently scarce. It's because your mental filtering system is programmed to notice scarcity. But here's where the real revelation happens. When you deliberately shift to thoughts of faith, certainty, and possibility, when you consciously choose to focus on abundance rather than lack, your entire perceptual apparatus transforms. Suddenly, you start noticing opportunities that were invisible before, connections that seemed impossible begin forming, and solutions to problems appear as if from nowhere. The external world hasn't changed. Your internal broadcasting frequency has. This is why the ancient principle, believe first, then see, isn't just spiritual wisdom. It's practical psychology. Most people operate from the opposite approach. They want to see evidence before they'll believe something is possible. But this backwards thinking keeps them trapped in the same reality they're trying to escape, because they're only willing to believe what their current circumstances show them. The journey toward financial transformation requires understanding that your thoughts create a chain reaction that determines your entire life experience. Every thought generates a corresponding emotion, every emotion drives specific actions, and every action produces measurable results. If you're not getting the results you want in your financial life, there's inevitably a mental program running in the background that's sabotaging your efforts at the source. Your mind operates exactly like a computer system, complete with an operating system that was installed during your formative years. Most of this programming happened before you were 7 years old, when your conscious mind wasn't yet developed enough to filter or question the information you were receiving. Every conversation about money you overheard, every emotional reaction your parents had to financial stress, every casual comment about wealth and poverty became part of your internal software. The impact of this early programming is profound because it operates below the level of conscious awareness. You might consciously want financial success while unconsciously running programs that associate money with stress, conflict, or moral compromise. You might logically understand investment principles while emotionally feeling unsafe whenever you consider taking financial risks. These internal contradictions create a kind of mental friction that prevents forward momentum, no matter how hard you try to push through with willpower alone. Behind the scenes of every major financial breakthrough, there's always a moment when someone recognized these hidden programs and made a deliberate decision to install new software. They understood that trying to create different results with the same mental programming is like trying to run advanced applications on an outdated operating system. It simply won't work effectively. The transformation begins when you realize that you have the power to consciously choose your thoughts, to deliberately select the frequency you're broadcasting, and to systematically replace limiting programs with empowering ones. Write in the comments, "I'm reprogramming my mind," if you're ready to. Upgrade your internal operating system. Now, I want to go even deeper into the actual mechanics of this reprogramming process, because there's a specific technique that can accelerate your transformation in ways that might surprise you. It's based on understanding that every limiting belief about money stored in your subconscious operates like a computer virus, quietly running in the background, corrupting your financial decisions, and sabotaging your progress toward prosperity. These mental viruses didn't just appear randomly. They were installed through repetition, emotion, and authority figures during your most impressionable years. Every time you heard, "Money doesn't grow on trees," "We can't afford that," or "Rich people are greedy," these phrases weren't just casual observations. They became embedded commands in your subconscious programming. The emotional charge behind these statements, often delivered by people you trusted and loved, gave them tremendous power to shape your financial reality. The revelation that changes everything is recognizing that if these limiting programs were installed through repetition and emotion, they can be uninstalled and replaced using the same process. The solution isn't grinding harder at the same strategies that haven't been working. It's consciously rewriting the foundational code that determines how you think, feel, and act around money. Behind the scenes of every major financial transformation, there's usually a moment when someone discovered the power of deliberate self-programming. They realized that their internal dialogue about money was creating their external experience with money, and they made a decision to take conscious control of that conversation. Here's where the journey becomes intensely practical. The first step is developing awareness of the negative financial programming that's currently running your life. This requires paying attention to the automatic thoughts that arise when you think about money, success, or wealth. Most people are shocked when they first become conscious of how much mental energy they spend reinforcing scarcity-based beliefs throughout their day. The transformation accelerates when you begin actively rewriting these programs. For every limiting belief you identify, whether it's "I'm not good with money," "success requires sacrifice," or "there's never enough," you create a powerful, positive opposite that represents the truth you want to install. This isn't about positive thinking or affirmations that feel fake. It's about consciously choosing the mental software you want running your financial life. The mirror technique takes this process to an entirely different level because it engages multiple senses and creates the kind of emotional intensity that makes new programming stick. When you stand in front of a mirror and speak your new financial truths out loud with conviction, with strong posture, and with genuine emotion, you're literally rewiring neural pathways in real time. Your brain can't distinguish between this intensely focused practice and actual experience, so it begins creating new automatic responses based on this new information. The impact of this practice goes far beyond just changing your thoughts. When you consistently reinforce empowering beliefs about money and success through this process, your body language shifts, your voice changes, your decision-making transforms, and your entire energetic presence becomes magnetic to opportunities and resources. People begin responding to you differently because you're literally becoming a different person, someone who thinks, speaks, and acts from abundance rather than scarcity. If these insights are hitting home for you, I'd love to have you subscribe because I'm constantly sharing new strategies and revelations that build on exactly what we've covered today. This community is full of people who are serious about transforming their financial reality, and I think you'd fit right in. What makes this technique so powerful is that you're not trying to convince yourself of something that isn't true. You're installing new programming that aligns with your highest potential and deepest desires. You're choosing to become the version of yourself that naturally attracts wealth, makes confident financial decisions, and creates value in the world. The journey of conscious reprogramming requires commitment and consistency, but the results compound exponentially as your new mental software begins running automatically in the background of your daily life. Write in the comments, "I'm rewriting my money story," if you're ready to take control of your financial programming. Now, I want to go even deeper into what might be the most profound revelation about how wealth actually manifests in your life. The hidden connection between your deepest convictions and the magnetic force that draws prosperity toward you. This isn't about hoping, wishing, or even working harder. This is about understanding that you literally become a magnet for whatever you hold with genuine, unwavering faith in your mind. The transformation happens when you realize that the universe operates like a sophisticated response system, constantly reading the energetic signature of your dominant beliefs and delivering experiences that match that frequency. Most people make the mistake of thinking they can ask for wealth with their words while emanating scarcity with their thoughts. But the universe doesn't respond to what you say. It responds to what you truly believe at the deepest level of your being. This is why sustained thought accompanied by unwavering faith produces such dramatically different results than casual wishing or temporary motivation. When you maintain a clear mental image of wealth with the kind of conviction that remains steady regardless of current circumstances, you're essentially programming a magnetic field around your consciousness that begins attracting the people, opportunities, and resources necessary to make that image reality. Behind the scenes of every major financial breakthrough, there's always someone who developed the ability to make their mental image of success more vivid and emotionally compelling than their current physical reality. They learned to live from their vision rather than from their circumstances, to make decisions based on where they were going rather than where they currently stood. The journey toward this level of magnetic attraction requires developing what I call future-focused living. This means cultivating the ability to feel wealthy before you have the money, to experience abundance before you see the bank account, to embody success before you achieve the external markers. This isn't pretending or fantasy. This is aligning your internal state with your desired outcome so completely that your mind begins treating that future reality as inevitable. When you truly master this process, when you can close your eyes and see yourself living with complete financial tranquility, making wise investment decisions, contributing meaningful value to the world, and operating from a place of genuine security rather than survival mode, something remarkable happens. Your decision-making changes, your risk tolerance shifts, your ability to recognize and act on opportunities expands dramatically. The impact of maintaining this kind of clear mental imagery goes far beyond visualization exercises. It literally rewires how you show up in the world. You begin speaking differently in business conversations, negotiating from strength rather than desperation, and making choices that align with long-term wealth building rather than short-term financial band-aids. People sense this shift in your energy and begin treating you as someone who belongs in higher-level conversations and opportunities. What makes this process so powerful is that your subconscious mind cannot distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. When you consistently feed it detailed images of financial success, accompanied by the emotions of gratitude, excitement, and certainty, it begins creating neural pathways and behavioral patterns that support that reality. Your brain literally starts preparing you for the success you've been visualizing. The revelation that changes everything is understanding that this mental image must become more compelling, more emotionally charged, and more frequently accessed than your current physical circumstances. Most people spend far more mental energy focusing on their problems than their possibilities, which keeps them magnetically aligned with struggle rather than success. This is where the real work begins, developing the discipline to feed your mind a steady diet of wealth-focused imagery while simultaneously starving the old patterns of lack-based thinking. Write in the comments, "My vision is becoming reality," if you're committed to making your mental images more powerful than your current circumstances. Now, I want to go even deeper into what I call the multiplication principle, a hidden law of consciousness that explains why some people seem to effortlessly attract wealth, while others struggle despite tremendous effort and intelligence. This revelation will fundamentally change how you understand the relationship between your thoughts and your financial reality. Here's the truth that most people never discover. A clear, sustained thought directed toward wealth with genuine conviction cannot avoid attracting it. This isn't mystical thinking. It's based on how your brain's reticular activating system works, how your decision-making patterns shift, and how your behavior naturally aligns with your dominant mental focus. The problem is that most people have never learned to sustain a clear thought about anything, let alone wealth. The hidden truth behind persistent financial struggle isn't lack of intelligence, education, or even opportunity. It's mental misdirection. Most minds are trained to operate like worry machines, constantly scanning for problems, focusing on what could go wrong, and rehearsing scenarios of failure or limitation. They spend exponentially more mental energy thinking about their debts than their dreams, more time focused on what they can't afford than what they want to create. This backwards focus creates what I call poverty magnetism, where your mind becomes a powerful attractor for exactly what you don't want. Every time you think, "I can't afford this," you're sending out a signal that draws more situations where you can't afford things. Every time you worry about money running out, you're programming your subconscious to notice and create experiences of scarcity. The transformation happens when you understand that your mind operates according to what I call the specific thinking method. This isn't about positive thinking or superficial affirmations. It's about adopting a fundamentally different way of processing reality. Instead of hoping for wealth, you begin thinking about it as an absolute certainty. Instead of seeing abundance as something you might achieve if you're lucky, you start contemplating it as your natural birthright. Behind the scenes of every major financial success story, there's someone who made a profound shift in their mental approach. They stopped doing more things and started doing things in a specific way, with the unshakable conviction that their prosperity was inevitable. This internal certainty changed everything about how they showed up in the world, how they made decisions, how they responded to setbacks, and how they recognized and acted on opportunities. If this conversation has shifted something inside you, hit that like button. It's a simple way to let me know this resonated, and it also helps other people who need to hear this message find their way here. The journey toward this level of mental mastery requires understanding that the science of getting rich operates more like physics than psychology. Just as gravity works the same way for everyone, regardless of their beliefs about it, the law of mental attraction responds to sustained focus and emotional conviction regardless of your background or current circumstances. When you begin thinking about wealth as absolute certainty rather than wishful hope, when you contemplate abundance as your natural state rather than something you need to earn or deserve, your entire energy signature shifts. You start making decisions from expansion rather than contraction, from possibility rather than limitation, from confidence rather than fear. The impact of this shift ripples through every area of your life. You begin speaking differently in financial conversations, taking calculated risks that previously seemed impossible, and recognizing opportunities that were always present but invisible to your scarcity-focused awareness. Most importantly, you start acting daily as if you're already on the inevitable path to wealth, which creates a self-fulfilling prophecy that compounds over time. This specific way of thinking requires discipline because it often contradicts what you see in your current circumstances. It demands that you trust the process even when external evidence doesn't yet support your internal conviction. But once you develop this capacity, once you learn to sustain clear, wealth-focused thoughts with unwavering faith, the multiplication effect becomes undeniable. Write in the comments, "I think with certainty," if you're ready to master this specific thinking method. Now, I want to go even deeper into what separates people who successfully manifest wealth from those who remain stuck in cycles of financial frustration. The revelation centers around something most people completely overlook: the incredible power of crystal-clear mental imagery, and why the vast majority of people have never learned to use this fundamental human capacity effectively. Here's what happens when I ask most people to describe their ideal wealthy life. They give me vague generalities like, "I want to be financially free," or "I'd like to not worry about money." But when I press them for specifics, exactly how they'd spend their days, what their living space looks like, who they'd share experiences with, how they'd feel waking up each morning. They struggle to paint a clear picture. This vagueness is precisely why their attraction signal remains weak and inconsistent. The transformation begins when you understand that your subconscious mind operates like a GPS system. If you program it with a vague destination like somewhere nice, it has no clear direction to navigate toward. But when you input specific coordinates, detailed images of exactly how you want to live, complete with sensory details and emotional textures, it begins plotting the most efficient route to get you there. Behind the scenes of every major financial breakthrough, there's someone who developed the ability to create movie-like mental images of their desired lifestyle. They can close their eyes and see their ideal home in vivid detail, feel the texture of quality materials, hear the sounds of their perfect day, and experience the emotions of living without financial constraint. This isn't daydreaming, it's precision programming of their mental targeting system. The journey toward this clarity requires overcoming decades of conditioning that taught you to expect the worst rather than envision the best. From childhood, most people are trained to be realistic, which usually means imagining limitations, preparing for disappointment, and focusing on what could go wrong. This negative visualization becomes so automatic that many people spend more time mentally rehearsing poverty than prosperity. The hidden truth about desire itself is that wanting wealth isn't greedy, shallow, or spiritually misguided. It's actually the natural impulse of life seeking fuller expression. Every living thing in nature grows, expands, and reaches for more. A seed doesn't remain content as a seed. It grows into a tree. A river doesn't stop flowing. It seeks the ocean. Your desire for financial abundance is simply your soul's way of seeking a more complete, free, and expanded existence. This understanding completely reframes the relationship most people have with their financial aspirations. Instead of feeling guilty about wanting more money, you begin recognizing this desire as a sacred impulse toward growth and contribution. Wealth becomes a tool for experiencing more of what life has to offer, for serving others at a higher level, and for expressing your full potential in the world. The image you hold in your mind isn't just wishful thinking. It's literally the blueprint from which your future reality will be constructed. Every detail you can visualize with clarity and emotional intensity becomes a magnetic instruction to your subconscious, which then begins reorganizing your perceptions, decisions, and actions to align with that vision. The impact of developing this visualization skill extends far beyond financial manifestation. When you can clearly see your desired outcome, you naturally start making choices that support that vision. You begin saying no to opportunities that don't align with your ultimate goal, and yes to possibilities that move you closer to your ideal life. Your decision-making process becomes filtered through the question, does this take me toward or away from the life I'm creating? Most people have been unconsciously creating their current reality through unfocused, fear-based mental imagery. But once you master the art of deliberate, detailed, emotionally charged visualization, you become the conscious architect of your financial destiny. Write in the comments, "I see my wealthy life clearly," if you're ready to develop precision in your mental imagery. Now, I want to go even deeper into the fundamental force that actually creates wealth in the physical world, because there's a hidden principle operating behind every dollar you've ever earned or lost that most people never recognize. This revelation will completely transform how you understand the relationship between your internal world of thoughts and your external world of financial results. Here's the truth that changed everything for me. Thought is literally the only power capable of producing tangible wealth. Not hard work alone, not connections, not even luck. These are all secondary effects of something far more primary. Every dollar that exists, every business that thrives, every investment that pays off, began as a coherent thought in someone's mind. This isn't philosophical speculation, it's the practical reality of how wealth gets created in the physical world. The transformation happens when you realize that you cannot attract what you desire through wanting alone. Wanting is passive, unfocused energy that often contains more desperation than conviction. But thinking coherently with what you desire, that's an entirely different process. It means aligning your mental energy so completely with your financial goals that your thoughts, emotions, and actions all point in the same direction like a laser beam. Behind the scenes of every major fortune, there's always someone who understood that everything visible in the material world was first invisible in the realm of thought. The building you're in right now, the device you're watching this on, the entire economic system we operate within, all of it began as formless ideas that someone held with enough clarity and conviction to bring into physical manifestation. This understanding completely shifts your relationship with your own thoughts about money. Instead of treating them as casual mental chatter, you begin recognizing them as the actual creative force that's shaping your financial future. Every thought about wealth you entertain with genuine belief becomes a command to the universe's creative mechanism. Every image of prosperity you hold with emotional intensity becomes a blueprint for your subconscious to follow. The journey toward sustained mental focus requires confronting an uncomfortable truth about human psychology. Most people are unconsciously focused on what they fear rather than what they desire. They spend their mental energy worrying about bills, instead of visualizing abundance, thinking about what they might lose instead of what they want to gain, rehearsing failure instead of success. This backwards focus creates what I call fear magnetism, where your mental energy consistently attracts more of what you don't want. The law operating here is beautifully simple. Whatever you think about with genuine emotional energy, you expand in your experience. If you're constantly thinking about debt with anxiety, you're feeding energy to debt. If you're persistently worried about not having enough, you're programming not enough into your reality. The revelation that changes everything is understanding that your mind operates like a magnifying glass for whatever you focus on consistently. When you direct sustained attention toward your financial fears, those fears grow larger and more prominent in your experience. But when you redirect that same mental energy toward clear images of prosperity, wealth consciousness, and financial freedom, those possibilities begin expanding instead. The impact of mastering sustained mental focus goes far beyond just feeling better about money. When you train your mind to consistently dwell on what you want to create rather than what you want to avoid, your decision-making transforms, your risk tolerance shifts, your ability to recognize opportunities expands dramatically, and your natural magnetism for resources intensifies. Most people have never been taught that their thoughts are creative tools rather than just random mental activity. They treat their minds like garbage dumps, allowing any fear-based or limitation-focused thought to take up residence. But once you understand that thought is the primary creative force in your financial life, you become incredibly selective about what you allow your mind to focus on. The discipline of sustained mental focus means becoming the guardian of your own consciousness, consistently redirecting attention away from scarcity-based thinking and toward wealth-focused imagery and planning. Write in the comments, "My thoughts create my wealth," if you're ready to harness this creative power. Now, I want to go even deeper into what might be the most liberating revelation about wealth creation, the fundamental difference between creative thinking and competitive thinking, and why this distinction will determine whether you struggle for scraps or generate abundance from within. This shift in perspective has the power to eliminate financial anxiety forever, while opening pathways to prosperity that most people never even consider. Here's the hidden truth that separates those who build lasting wealth from those who remain trapped in financial struggle. You don't need to compete for money, take it from others or fight for limited resources. The competitive mindset operates from the false belief that there's only so much wealth to go around, that someone else's success diminishes your opportunities, and that you need to outmaneuver, outwork, or outsmart others to claim your share of a finite pie. This scarcity-based thinking creates tremendous internal stress because it positions you as constantly under threat, always needing to defend your position, perpetually worried that others might get ahead while you fall behind. When you operate from competitive consciousness, you're essentially declaring war on the abundance that's trying to flow into your life, because you're focused on what others have rather than what you can create. The transformation happens when you shift into creative thinking, the understanding that wealth isn't something you compete for, but something you generate through the power of your own consciousness. This isn't about positive thinking or wishful fantasy. It's about recognizing that your mind has the capacity to originate new value, solve problems that others haven't solved, and contribute something unique that the world will willingly pay for. Behind the scenes of every major fortune, there's someone who discovered that creation is infinitely more powerful than competition. They stopped looking at what already existed and started imagining what could exist. They stopped trying to take market share and started creating new markets. They stopped fighting for position and started establishing their own category. The journey toward creative consciousness requires understanding that the universe operates on principles of expansion rather than limitation. Everything in nature grows, multiplies, and generates more of itself. Seeds become forests, ideas become movements, and small innovations become entire industries. When you align your thinking with this creative principle, you tap into the same force that powers all growth and expansion. Your subconscious mind becomes the ultimate ally in this process because it operates without the limitations that constrain your conscious thinking. It doesn't evaluate whether your goals are realistic, question whether you deserve success, or argue about whether your dreams are possible. It simply executes whatever you program into it with genuine belief and emotional conviction. This is why the difference between those who achieve seemingly impossible results and those who fail before they even start always comes down to initial belief. Not intelligence, not resources, not circumstances, belief. When you truly conceive something as possible and hold that conception with unwavering faith, your subconscious begins orchestrating circumstances, attracting resources, and creating opportunities that support that belief. The impact of this understanding is profound because it means there are literally no mental limits on what you can achieve financially. The only boundaries that exist are the ones you accept as real. Every ceiling you've encountered in your financial life was self-imposed through limited thinking, not imposed by external circumstances. Most people live far below their potential because they've been conditioned to accept artificial limitations as permanent realities. They believe they're not smart enough, connected enough, or lucky enough to create significant wealth. But these beliefs are simply programs running in their subconscious, and programs can be changed. When you begin operating from creative rather than competitive consciousness, when you truly grasp that your subconscious will faithfully execute whatever you believe with genuine conviction, everything changes. You stop looking for opportunities and start creating them. You stop asking permission and start taking inspired action. Write in the comments, "I am a creator, not a competitor," if you're ready to embrace unlimited creative power. Now I want to go even deeper into what might be the most counterintuitive revelation about wealth creation. Why chasing money directly almost always leads to frustration and failure, while focusing on something entirely different creates an irresistible magnetic force that draws prosperity to you effortlessly. This understanding will completely transform your relationship with financial success and eliminate the desperate energy that actually repels the wealth you're trying to attract. Here's the hidden truth that separates those who struggle financially from those who live in abundance. Wealth isn't something you pursue. It's something that pursues you when you develop the right internal conditions. Most people spend their entire lives chasing money, but money is never the cause of prosperity. Money is always the effect, the natural consequence of a well-aligned mind operating from elevated consciousness and powerful thought patterns. The transformation happens when you realize that your primary job isn't to figure out how to get rich, but to become the kind of person who naturally attracts wealth. This shift from external pursuit to internal development changes everything about how you approach financial success. Instead of frantically searching for opportunities, you focus on cultivating the mental and energetic qualities that make opportunities gravitate toward you. Behind the scenes of every person who seems to effortlessly attract money, there's someone who discovered that true magnetism for wealth comes from the silent development of inner power. They stopped trying to manipulate external circumstances and started transforming their internal landscape. They developed unshakable confidence, expanded their capacity to serve others, cultivated genuine gratitude, and aligned their actions with their highest values. The journey toward this magnetic state requires understanding that your vibration, the energetic frequency you emit through your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs, is constantly broadcasting a signal that either attracts or repels financial opportunities. When you operate from desperation, anxiety, or neediness around money, you're literally pushing it away. But when you develop inner abundance, confidence, and a genuine desire to contribute value, you become irresistible to prosperity. This internal work creates what I call inevitable wealth, the kind of financial success that feels natural and sustainable because it flows from who you've become rather than what you've done. It's wealth that doesn't require constant effort to maintain because it's rooted in your character and consciousness rather than external strategies or market conditions. However, here's where many people get trapped in spiritual bypassing. They focus so much on inner development that they forget the crucial importance of precise action. The revelation that changes everything is understanding that it's not enough to want wealth or even to visualize it clearly. You must act in a specific way, and that way is always now, never tomorrow. The impact of this understanding is profound because it eliminates the procrastination and perfectionism that keep most people stuck in preparation mode. Every action you take, regardless of how small it might seem, either moves you toward or away from your financial goals. There's no neutral territory in wealth creation. You're either building momentum or losing it with every decision you make. What makes this process so powerful is recognizing that excellence in small things determines your capacity for receiving great things. The way you handle a $5 transaction reveals your relationship with money at every level. The precision you bring to minor tasks demonstrates your readiness for major opportunities. The intention you infuse into routine activities trains your consciousness for extraordinary results. Most people are waiting for significant opportunities before they'll bring their best effort, but the universe operates in reverse. It gives you bigger opportunities based on how well you handle smaller ones. When you begin treating every action as sacred, every interaction as important, and every moment as a chance to demonstrate excellence, you literally reprogram your magnetic field for success. The revelation that ties everything together is understanding that wealth creation happens in the present moment through the quality of your current actions, not in some future scenario when conditions are perfect. Write in the comments, "I act with excellence now," if you're ready to transform desire into reality through precise present moment action. Now, I want to go even deeper into one of the most paralyzing misconceptions that keeps people trapped in financial mediocrity. The belief that they need to wait for better circumstances, more resources, or the perfect opportunity before they can begin their transformation toward wealth. This revelation will shatter the excuses that have been holding you back and show you why your current situation, regardless of how challenging it might seem, is actually the perfect launching pad for your financial breakthrough. Here's the profound truth that most people resist accepting. You cannot act where you aren't, and you cannot become what you refuse to be where you currently are. Every moment you spend waiting for ideal conditions is a moment you're not building the momentum that creates those conditions. Your current environment, with all its limitations and challenges, isn't a barrier to your success. It's the exact training ground where you develop the skills, mindset, and resilience that will carry you to wealth. The transformation begins when you realize that every successful person started exactly where you are now, with circumstances that seemed less than ideal, resources that felt insufficient, and obstacles that appeared insurmountable. The difference isn't that they had better starting conditions. It's that they made a decision to act with excellence and intention from their current position rather than postponing their efforts until some future moment when everything would be perfect. Behind the scenes of every major financial breakthrough, there's someone who discovered that mastery is developed through practicing excellence in ordinary circumstances. They learned to treat their small business like a Fortune 500 company, to handle modest transactions with the same integrity they'd bring to million-dollar deals, and to serve their current customers with the same devotion they'd show to their dream clients. This approach creates what I call readiness magnetism, where your commitment to excellence in your present circumstances prepares you to recognize and seize bigger opportunities when they appear. The universe doesn't promote people to higher levels of responsibility and reward until they've demonstrated mastery at their current level. The journey toward this understanding requires confronting an uncomfortable truth about how your mind has been working against your financial success, often for years, without your conscious awareness. Your subconscious mind operates like the most powerful computer ever created, but with one crucial characteristic: it doesn't argue with the programming you give it. Every thought you think repeatedly becomes an instruction that your subconscious accepts as absolute truth and then works tirelessly to make real in your experience. When you consistently think thoughts like, "I never have enough money," "I'm not good with finances," or "rich people are greedy," you're literally programming your mental computer to create evidence that supports these beliefs. The hidden truth about subconscious programming is that it operates completely below the level of conscious awareness, which means most people are inadvertently sabotaging their financial success through negative mental patterns they don't even realize they're running. Every complaint about money, every worry about bills, every doubt about your ability to create wealth becomes a silent command that your subconscious faithfully executes. The impact of this revelation is both sobering and liberating. Sobering because it means you've been unconsciously creating many of the financial challenges you're experiencing. Liberating because it means you have the power to reprogram your mental computer with thoughts and beliefs that support prosperity rather than poverty. Most people spend more time programming their smartphones than programming their minds. But your mental programming determines everything: how you perceive opportunities, what risks you're willing to take, how much value you believe you can provide, and what level of compensation you feel you deserve. The transformation accelerates when you become the conscious guardian of your own thoughts, deliberately choosing mental programs that align with wealth creation, rather than allowing random fear-based patterns to run unchecked in the background of your consciousness. Write in the comments, "I control my mental programming," if you're ready to take conscious control of the thoughts that shape your financial reality. Now, I want to go even deeper into the precise mechanics of how you can actively reprogram your subconscious mind for wealth, because there's a specific technique that accelerates this transformation in ways that most people never discover. This revelation will give you the exact tools to install new financial programming that operates automatically in the background of your consciousness, attracting opportunities and resources without conscious effort on your part. Here's the hidden truth about how lasting change actually occurs in your mind. Faith acts as the catalyst that initiates the process. Emotion serves as the glue that makes new programming stick, and repetition becomes the chisel that engraves new code deep into your subconscious. Most people fail at transformation because they're missing one or more of these essential elements, treating affirmations like casual wishes rather than powerful programming instructions. The transformation begins when you understand that your subconscious mind responds most powerfully to thoughts that are charged with genuine emotion and repeated with unwavering conviction. Simply saying, "I am wealthy," without feeling or belief, does nothing. It's like trying to program a computer with disconnected commands. But when you combine those same words with vivid visualization, intense emotion, and absolute faith in their truth, you're launching a direct order that your subconscious cannot ignore. Behind the scenes of every major mindset shift, there's someone who discovered that autosuggestion isn't about positive thinking or wishful repetition. It's about consciously installing new operating instructions through emotionally charged, faith-based programming. They learn to speak to their subconscious mind with the same authority they'd use to give commands to a sophisticated computer system. The journey toward mastering this process requires understanding that your subconscious mind operates like the most obedient servant imaginable. It never questions whether what you're programming is beneficial or harmful, realistic or fantastic, possible or impossible. It simply accepts whatever you communicate with sufficient emotional intensity and repetition, then begins reorganizing your perceptions, decisions, and actions to align with that new programming. This is why what you believe with emotional intensity and repeat frequently becomes your lived reality, regardless of your current circumstances. When your thoughts fuse with powerful emotion, whether that's excitement about your financial future, gratitude for abundance you're creating, or absolute certainty about your worthiness of wealth, you're essentially launching a guided missile toward your subconscious that will reorganize your entire internal landscape. The impact of understanding this process is profound because it means you have direct access to the control panel of your financial destiny. Every time you repeat wealth-focused affirmations with genuine conviction, every moment you visualize prosperity with intense emotion, every instance you feel grateful for abundance with sincere appreciation, you're literally rewiring the neural pathways that determine your financial behavior. Most people sabotage their autosuggestion efforts by mixing doubt with desire, fear with faith, or skepticism with certainty. They'll affirm abundance while simultaneously worrying about bills, or visualize success while harboring deep-seated beliefs about their unworthiness. This creates conflicting programs that cancel each other out, leaving their subconscious confused and their results inconsistent. The revelation that changes everything is recognizing that your subconscious mind is always being programmed. The question is whether you're doing it consciously with intention or unconsciously through default patterns. Every emotionally charged thought you repeat becomes a program. Every belief you hold with intensity becomes a magnetic instruction that attracts corresponding experiences. When you begin approaching autosuggestion as a sacred practice rather than a casual exercise, when you bring the same seriousness to programming your mind that you'd bring to any important project, the results compound exponentially. Your financial behavior begins shifting automatically, your decision-making improves without conscious effort, and opportunities start appearing with increasing frequency. Write in the comments, "I am reprogramming for wealth," if you're ready to master the art of conscious mental programming. Now, I want to go even deeper into what might be the most overlooked aspect of wealth creation, the activation of your personal power, a force so subtle yet so transformative that most people go their entire lives without ever accessing it. This revelation will show you how to tap into an energy source that operates independently of external circumstances and creates an unstoppable momentum toward financial success. Here's the hidden truth that separates those who build lasting wealth from those who struggle despite tremendous effort. Every person possesses an innate power that can generate riches, but this power only activates when you achieve perfect harmony between your thoughts and actions. This isn't about working harder or pushing against resistance. It's about aligning with the fundamental law of growth that governs everything in the universe. The transformation happens when you understand that this personal power isn't aggressive, manipulative, or forceful in nature. It operates more like a silent, persistent current that flows through you when your mental energy and physical actions move in the same direction without internal contradiction. When your thoughts about wealth are aligned with your daily behaviors, when your vision of prosperity matches your moment-to-moment decisions, this power activates automatically behind the scenes of every person who seems to effortlessly attract opportunities and resources. There's someone who discovered how to eliminate the internal friction that blocks this natural flow of creative energy. They stopped fighting against themselves, stopped second-guessing their decisions, and stopped creating mental resistance to their own success through doubt, fear, or self-sabotage. The journey toward activating this power requires understanding that it emerges not from what you do occasionally when inspired, but from what you do consistently with purpose and intention. Most people confuse activity with progress, busyness with effectiveness, and effort with results. They exhaust themselves doing random tasks without clear direction, then wonder why their financial situation doesn't improve despite all their hard work. This is where the revelation becomes practical and immediately applicable. You must do everything you can do each day, but with crystal clear purpose, focused energy, and unwavering certainty that every action is contributing to your wealth creation. The difference between those who become rich and those who simply wear themselves out isn't the amount of work they do. It's the quality of consciousness they bring to that work. When you infuse even mundane tasks with the energy of wealth creation, when you approach every interaction as an opportunity to add value, when you handle every transaction with the precision of someone building an empire, something remarkable happens. Your personal power begins flowing through these actions, magnetizing opportunities, resources, and connections that support your financial goals. The impact of this approach extends far beyond just getting things done more effectively. When you operate from sustained vision backed by unwavering faith, when every action carries the energetic signature of someone who knows their prosperity is inevitable, you literally become a different person. Your presence changes, your decision-making improves, and your natural magnetism for success intensifies dramatically. This persistent action, driven by clear vision, creates what I call compound momentum, where each day's efforts build upon the previous day's foundation, creating an accelerating spiral of progress that becomes unstoppable over time. Most people abandon their efforts too early because they expect immediate results, but wealth creation operates more like growing a tree than microwaving food. The revelation that ties everything together is understanding that your personal power activates in direct proportion to the alignment between your inner conviction and your outer expression. When there's no gap between what you believe about your financial future and how you show up in the world each day, when your thoughts and actions form one unified force moving toward prosperity, you tap into the same creative energy that builds fortunes. Write in the comments, "My power is activating," if you're ready to align your thoughts and actions for unstoppable momentum toward wealth. Now I want to go even deeper into what might be the most profound revelation about how wealth actually manifests in the physical world, the hidden relationship between your consciousness and the fundamental creative substance that underlies all reality. This understanding will completely transform how you perceive your role in creating financial abundance and show you why your thoughts carry far more power than you've ever imagined. Here's the truth that changes everything. There exists an original, formless substance that permeates every space in the universe. And this substance is not inert or indifferent. It responds directly to human thought. Your mind isn't just generating random mental chatter. It's constantly molding and shaping this invisible creative material through the vibrations of your consciousness. Every thought you think with genuine conviction becomes an instruction to this substance, directing it to take form according to your mental patterns. The transformation happens when you realize that you're not just speaking with words when you think about money. You're broadcasting mental vibrations that penetrate this responsive substance and begin organizing it according to your dominant beliefs and expectations. Your thoughts about wealth, scarcity, success, or limitation are literally sculpting your future financial reality at the most fundamental level of creation. Behind the scenes of every major financial manifestation, there's someone who discovered that their inner world operates as the command center for their outer experience. They understood that the internal image they maintain as true, whether it's one of struggle or prosperity, lack or abundance, becomes the template from which their physical circumstances are constructed. This isn't metaphysical speculation. It's the practical recognition that your consciousness functions as a magnetic center, constantly attracting experiences that match your vibrational frequency. When you consistently hold images of financial limitation in your mind, when you repeatedly think thoughts of scarcity and struggle, you're programming this responsive substance to create more of those same conditions in your life. The journey toward mastering this process requires understanding that you can completely shift your vibrational frequency by changing the fundamental conversation you're having with reality. Most people don't realize that their entire life has been one long conversation with scarcity. Every worry about money, every complaint about bills, every doubt about their financial future has been part of an ongoing dialogue that reinforces limitation and lack. But today, in this very moment, you have the power to begin a completely different conversation, one with abundance, prosperity, and unlimited possibility. When you start thinking about wealth as your natural state, when you speak to money as a friend rather than an enemy, when you act as someone who already possesses the financial freedom you desire, you fundamentally alter the vibrations you're sending out into this creative substance. The impact of this shift is immediate and profound, because the universe responds not to your circumstances, but to your consciousness. When you begin operating from the frequency of wealth, thinking wealthy thoughts, speaking wealthy words, making wealthy decisions, you become a magnet for the very experiences you're vibrating with. This process accelerates when you understand that authenticity is key to this transformation. You're not pretending to be wealthy or putting on a false persona. You're accessing the version of yourself that naturally thinks, speaks, and acts from abundance rather than scarcity. This wealthy version of you already exists within your consciousness. It's simply been overshadowed by years of conditioning that taught you to vibrate with limitation. The revelation that ties everything together is recognizing that wealth literally runs toward those who emit the right frequency, just as iron filings are drawn to a magnet. You don't have to chase prosperity when you're vibrating at the frequency of abundance. It seeks you out, finds you, and flows into your experience through pathways you never could have orchestrated consciously. Write in the comments, "I vibrate with wealth," if you're ready to shift from scarcity consciousness to abundance frequency. Now, I want to go even deeper into what might be the most empowering revelation about your fundamental nature and purpose. Why everything you've been told about being destined for struggle or limitation is not just wrong, but completely backwards from the truth of who you really are. This understanding will liberate you from decades of conditioning and reveal the incredible creative power that's been waiting within you all along. Here's the hidden truth that transforms everything. You were never designed for poverty, struggle, or financial limitation. These conditions aren't your natural state or your destined path. They're simply the result of misdirected creative energy. At your core, you are a being designed to create, grow, and receive everything you genuinely desire. The same force that grows flowers from seeds and turns acorns into oak trees is operating through your consciousness, waiting for you to align with its expansive nature. The transformation begins when you recognize that sustained thought focused on a clearly defined image, when united with deep faith and unwavering purpose, becomes the most powerful creative force in the entire universe. This isn't motivational hyperbole, it's the practical recognition that your mind, when properly directed, has access to the same creative principle that builds galaxies and orchestrates the complex dance of life itself. Behind the scenes of every person who seems to effortlessly attract wealth, there's someone who discovered that their desires aren't selfish impulses to be suppressed, but sacred callings to be honored. They realized that the natural desire for financial abundance isn't vulgar, greedy, or spiritually misguided. It's actually life itself, seeking more complete expression through their consciousness. The journey toward understanding this requires releasing the guilt and shame that many people carry about wanting wealth. For too long, society has perpetuated the false belief that desiring money is somehow unspiritual or morally questionable. But this belief system keeps people trapped in limitation and prevents them from accessing their full creative potential. The revelation that changes everything is recognizing that wealth represents freedom. Freedom to contribute more meaningfully to the world. Freedom to express your gifts without the constraint of financial worry. Freedom to support causes you believe in, and freedom to live in alignment with your highest values rather than just your survival needs. This understanding completely transforms your relationship with prosperity because you stop pursuing wealth with desperation, anxiety, or neediness, emotions that actually repel the very thing you're trying to attract. Instead, you begin approaching financial success with understanding, clarity, and patient certainty. You realize that wealth isn't something you chase frantically, but something you attract naturally through the correct application of mental and spiritual principles. The millionaire mind operates from three fundamental pillars that most people never develop. Clear purpose that gives meaning to their financial goals, firm vision that provides unwavering direction regardless of temporary circumstances, and constant faith that maintains momentum even when external evidence doesn't yet support their dreams. The impact of adopting this mindset extends far beyond just making more money. When you approach wealth creation from this elevated perspective, you naturally begin contributing more value to the world, serving others at a higher level, and expressing your unique gifts with greater confidence and effectiveness. Your financial success becomes a byproduct of your personal evolution rather than something you're desperately grasping for. Most people sabotage their wealth-building efforts because they approach money from a position of lack rather than abundance, from fear rather than faith, from desperation rather than understanding. But when you shift into millionaire consciousness, when you recognize your natural capacity for creation and growth, everything changes about how you think, speak, and act in relation to financial opportunities. Write in the comments, "I was born to create wealth," if you're ready to embrace your natural capacity for abundance and prosperity. Now, I want to go even deeper into what might be the most profound connection between wealth creation and personal evolution. The hidden relationship between your spiritual development, and your financial prosperity. This revelation will shatter the false belief that you must choose between material success and spiritual growth, showing you instead how they work together as complementary forces in your transformation. Here's the truth that liberates you from one of the most damaging misconceptions about money. There is no greater power for creating lasting wealth than living in complete harmony with who you really are at your deepest level. True prosperity isn't something you achieve despite your spiritual nature. It's the natural consequence of your internal connection to the creative force that governs the universe. The transformation happens when you realize that authentic spiritual growth necessarily includes financial prosperity, not as a distraction from your higher purpose, but as fuel for it. When you grow internally, developing greater self-awareness, deeper compassion, stronger integrity, and clearer vision, your external world automatically begins reflecting these elevated qualities. Your income, your opportunities, your relationships, and your overall life circumstances rise to match your internal development. Behind the scenes of every person who seems to effortlessly attract both wealth and fulfillment, there's someone who discovered that money isn't separate from spirituality. It's actually one of the ways that spiritual energy expresses itself in the physical world. They stopped seeing financial success as worldly or shallow, and started recognizing it as a natural extension of their capacity to serve, create, and contribute at higher levels. The journey toward this integration requires understanding that your desire for wealth, when it comes from a place of wanting to express your gifts more fully and serve others more effectively, is actually a sacred impulse. It's your soul calling for the resources and freedom necessary to fulfill your highest potential and make your unique contribution to the world. This understanding leads to what I call divine order programming, the recognition that wealth isn't a random accident or stroke of luck, but the inevitable consequence of an ordered, disciplined consciousness operating in harmony with universal principles. Most people approach money with chaotic, contradictory thoughts that create internal turbulence and external confusion. A mind that's scattered, distracted, and filled with doubt operates like a broken magnet. It might generate some attractive force, but that force pulls in conflicting directions, creating weak and inconsistent results. But when you develop a focused, firm mind that's clearly aligned with your financial desires and backed by unwavering faith, something remarkable happens. You stop merely attracting wealth and start actively creating it. The impact of this shift from attraction to creation is profound because it moves you from a passive position of hoping and waiting to an active role of conscious manifestation. You're no longer dependent on external circumstances aligning perfectly. Instead, you become the organizing force that brings order to your financial reality through the power of your disciplined consciousness. Most people never develop this level of mental discipline because they've been conditioned to believe that their thoughts are random, uncontrollable events rather than powerful tools of creation. But when you begin treating your mind like the sophisticated instrument it is, when you consciously program it for wealth creation through daily practice and unwavering focus, your entire relationship with money transforms. The revelation that ties everything together is understanding that spiritual development and financial prosperity aren't competing priorities. They're complementary aspects of your evolution as a conscious being. Your wealth becomes an expression of your spiritual growth, and your spiritual growth provides the foundation for sustainable, meaningful prosperity. Write in the comments, "My spirituality includes prosperity," if you're ready to integrate wealth creation with your highest values and deepest purpose. Now, I want to go even deeper into the most critical realization of this entire transformation, the recognition that this very moment, right now as you're receiving these words, is the exact moment when everything changes. Not tomorrow when you have more money, not next week when your situation improves, not someday when conditions are perfect, but now, in this present instant where your true power actually resides. Here's the revolutionary truth that shatters every excuse you've ever used to delay your financial transformation. Everything you need to become rich is already within you. Not 90% of what you need, not most of what you need, everything. The perfect moment you've been waiting for doesn't exist because perfection isn't a prerequisite for wealth creation. The decision to be rich has never depended on your environment, your circumstances, or your resources. It has only ever depended on you. The transformation accelerates when you realize that you don't need to go anywhere else to become wealthy. You don't need to move to a different city, find a different job, or wait for different opportunities. The wealth you desire can be created exactly where you are, with exactly what you have, starting with exactly who you've become through this journey of understanding. Behind the scenes of this moment, something profound has been occurring that you might not have fully recognized yet. If you've stayed with me this far, if these concepts have been resonating in your consciousness, if you've been feeling a shift in how you think about wealth and your own potential, then you're no longer the same person who began this journey. The old version of yourself, the one who doubted, postponed, and feared, has been quietly dissolving as a new identity has been emerging. You're no longer someone who waits for permission to dream big or seeks validation from others before taking action. You've become someone who chooses consciously, visualizes powerfully, and creates intentionally. This isn't a future aspiration. This transformation has been happening in real time as you've absorbed these principles and felt them activate within your consciousness. The journey toward recognizing this internal shift requires understanding that the great transformation isn't something that happens to you. It's something you recognize has already happened within you. The moment you truly grasp that you are the source from which wealth flows, rather than someone who needs to find wealth from external sources, everything changes about how you approach financial creation. Most people spend their entire lives looking outside themselves for the secret, the opportunity, the person, or the system that will make them rich. But you've discovered that wealth isn't something you find. It's something you generate through the power of your transformed consciousness. You're not hunting for prosperity, you're broadcasting it from within. The impact of this realization ripples through every aspect of your financial life, because when you know you're the source, you stop operating from scarcity and start operating from abundance. You stop begging the universe for opportunities and start creating them. You stop hoping for luck and start relying on the systematic application of mental and spiritual principles that produce predictable results. This shift from seeking to sourcing represents the ultimate empowerment because it means your financial future is no longer dependent on external factors beyond your control. Market conditions, economic cycles, and other people's decisions become secondary considerations rather than determining factors in your prosperity. The revelation that completes this transformation is recognizing that you've already crossed the threshold from who you used to be into who you're destined to become. The wealth that once seemed impossible now feels inevitable, not because your circumstances have changed, but because you have changed at the deepest level of your being. Write in the comments, "I am the source of my wealth," if you recognize the profound transformation that's already occurred within your consciousness. Now, I want to go even deeper into what might be the most liberating revelation about wealth creation: the recognition that what you've been discovering isn't based on luck, chance, or mystical forces, but on precise scientific principles that operate with mathematical certainty. This understanding will forever change how you approach financial success and eliminate the randomness and uncertainty that keep most people trapped in cycles of hope and disappointment. Here's the truth that transforms everything. The secret to wealth isn't luck, it isn't about having the right connections, and it isn't about working harder than everyone else. The secret is science. the systematic application of mental laws that govern how consciousness creates reality. Your capacity to attract wealth has nothing to do with your physical effort, your cunning strategies, or your network of contacts, and everything to do with your ability to think in a specific, disciplined way. The transformation happens when you realize that this correct thinking isn't something you do occasionally when you're motivated or inspired. It's a daily practice, a conscious choice, and a disciplined approach that literally shapes your destiny through consistent application. Just as a scientist follows precise protocols to achieve predictable results, you can follow mental protocols that produce reliable financial outcomes. Behind the scenes of every person who seems to effortlessly generate wealth, there's someone who discovered that prosperity follows laws as exact as gravity or thermodynamics. They stopped leaving their financial future to chance and started applying these mental principles with the same rigor a chemist brings to a formula or an engineer brings to a blueprint. The journey toward mastering this scientific approach requires understanding that your thoughts aren't random mental events. They're precision instruments that either work for or against your financial goals depending on how skillfully you wield them. Every successful thought pattern can be studied, replicated and refined through conscious practice until it becomes automatic. Most people never realize that they have unlimited potential because they've accepted artificial limitations as permanent realities. They believe there are ceilings on their income, boundaries on their opportunities, and restrictions on what someone with their background can achieve. But these limitations exist only in consciousness. They have no foundation in reality. The revelation that shatters every constraint you've ever accepted is recognizing that unlimited wealth isn't an exaggeration or motivational hyperbole. It's actually a precise reflection of how unlimited you are when you begin thinking from truth rather than from conditioned beliefs. The moment you start operating from your authentic potential instead of your programmed limitations, the word impossible loses all meaning in your vocabulary. This understanding completely transforms your relationship with possibility because you realize there genuinely is no limit to what you can be, do, or have. The only limits that exist in your experience are the ones you continue to accept as real. Every financial ceiling you've encountered was self-imposed through limited thinking, not imposed by external circumstances beyond your control. The impact of embracing this unlimited perspective extends far beyond just making more money. When you truly grasp that you're operating within a system of infinite possibility, your decision-making expands, your risk tolerance increases appropriately, your vision becomes more compelling, and your natural magnetism for resources intensifies dramatically. Most people spend their entire lives negotiating with limitation, trying to work within constraints they believe are fixed and unchangeable. But you've discovered that these constraints were never real. They were simply beliefs you inherited and accepted without questioning their validity. The scientific method of wealth creation operates from the premise that if unlimited abundance is possible for anyone, then it's possible for you. And the only variable is your willingness to think and act from that unlimited perspective consistently. Write in the comments, "I accept no limits," if you're ready to operate from unlimited potential and scientific certainty. Now, I want to go even deeper into what might be the most expansive revelation of this entire journey. The recognition that the magnetic power you've been developing doesn't just transform your financial life, but becomes a force that elevates every single aspect of your existence. This understanding will show you that you haven't just been learning how to attract money. You've been awakening a fundamental creative ability that reshapes your entire reality. Here's the profound truth that multiplies the impact of everything you've discovered. A magnetized mind doesn't operate selectively, attracting only wealth while leaving other areas of your life unchanged. The same consciousness that draws financial abundance towards you simultaneously attracts healthy relationships, extraordinary opportunities, meaningful experiences, and synchronicities that support your highest good. Everything in the universe responds to the same fundamental law of attraction, and once you're operating consciously within that law, every aspect of your life begins upgrading. The transformation happens when you realize that the mental discipline, emotional mastery, and spiritual alignment you've been developing for wealth creation are actually universal principles that apply to health, relationships, career satisfaction, personal fulfillment, and creative expression. You've been building a magnetic consciousness that enhances everything it touches. Behind the scenes of this revelation is the understanding that you haven't just been learning techniques or strategies. You've been fundamentally rewiring how you interface with reality itself. The confidence you've developed, the clarity you've cultivated, the faith you've strengthened, and the vision you've expanded become the foundation for creating excellence in every area of your life. The journey toward recognizing this broader application requires understanding that what you've experienced isn't the end of your transformation. It's actually the true beginning. You've reached the point where you can consciously participate in the creation of your reality, rather than unconsciously accepting whatever circumstances happen to unfold around you. This marks the transition from learning about these principles to living them as a way of being. Every day becomes an opportunity to act with intention, move with faith, think with clarity, and feel with genuine power. What you desire isn't something distant that might happen someday. It's already in the process of manifesting because you've aligned your consciousness with the creative forces that govern manifestation. The impact of this understanding transforms your entire approach to daily life because you begin treating every moment as part of a conscious creation experiment. Every thought you choose, every word you speak, every decision you make becomes either a step toward or away from the reality you're consciously creating. There's no neutral territory when you're operating from this level of awareness. Most people live their entire lives as passive recipients of random experiences, never realizing they have the power to consciously direct the flow of their circumstances. But you've discovered that unlimited wealth, meaningful relationships, vibrant health, and profound fulfillment aren't distant dreams reserved for the lucky few. They're expressions of your natural state when you're thinking and acting from your highest potential. The revelation that completes this understanding is recognizing that everything you've learned represents a fundamental shift in your identity. You're no longer someone who hopes for good things to happen. You're someone who consciously creates the experiences you desire through the disciplined application of mental and spiritual principles. This isn't just about having more money in your bank account, though that will certainly manifest. This is about becoming a conscious creator who approaches life with the confidence that comes from understanding how reality actually works and having the tools to shape it according to your highest vision. Write in the comments, "I am a conscious creator," if you're ready to turn every day into an experiment in manifesting your highest potential across all areas of life. If you've made it this far in our conversation, something tells me you're exactly the kind of person who's ready to take these principles and transform them into lived reality. The fact that you stayed with me through this entire journey says everything about your commitment to changing your financial destiny, and honestly, that commitment is what separates those who dream from those who achieve. The insights we've explored together aren't just concepts to think about. They're tools designed to be used, practiced, and integrated into your daily life until they become as natural as breathing. And if this conversation has resonated with you, if you felt that internal shift happening as we've talked, then you'll definitely want to stay connected because there's so much more we can explore together. I'd love for you to subscribe to the channel, because every video I create is designed with the same intention, to give you practical, transformational content that actually works in the real world. These aren't just feel-good concepts. They're proven principles that create measurable results when you apply them consistently. And if this message found you at exactly the right moment, if you feel like this conversation was meant for you, drop a comment below saying, "This message was meant for me." I always read through the comments because I love seeing who's part of this community of conscious creators, and your words help me understand what's resonating most deeply. If you felt that connection throughout our time together, a simple like on the video helps more people discover these ideas and begin their own transformation. It's a small gesture that creates a ripple effect of consciousness expansion. There's a video right here that complements everything we've discussed perfectly. It dives even deeper into the practical application of these principles and shows you exactly how to maintain this magnetic state day after day. Click and continue with me over there because your journey toward unlimited wealth is just beginning, and I want to be part of every step forward you take.